What is up, y'all? Ethan, the political ranter and gutter to your gamer, here today with a story that made me lose all faith in the American geopolitical system. Now, the war between Russia and Ukraine has been active since February of 2022. That is 3.5 years. 3.5 years that Ukrainians have been losing their lives, they've been losing their families, they've been losing their homes, they've been losing their towns. It's devastating, it's a tragedy, it's unacceptable, and something needs to be done. Now, President Trump claimed that he would be the one to do something. He stated, as a large part of his presidential campaign, that he would have the war between Russia and Ukraine ended before he ever even got into office. However, he's been in office at this point for nearly 8 months, and the war still persists. He is currently attending a summit with several European leaders in preparation for his meeting with Vladimir Putin to discuss the peace deal. But before we dive into all of that, let me explain a little bit why Ukraine is so significant. So, geographically, Ukraine is part of the buffer zone between Russia and the Western world. So, if Russia were to invade Ukraine, they now border what's considered the Western world. That is probably even more disastrous than it sounds. Additionally, Ukraine has large amounts of natural gas and oil deposits as well as mineral deposits. That is wealth. Wealth is power, and we cannot leave that amount of power in the hands of our direct geopolitical enemies. Thus, we can't just let Russia invade Ukraine, let it happen, and sit back and watch. So, President Trump is currently negotiating a peace deal with European leaders. Ironically, though, Vladimir Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, is not part of this negotiation. I personally think that Vladimir Zelensky should absolutely be one of the largest figures involved in this negotiation. However, he's not involved at all. And he's openly stated that he feels like he should be involved and that he disagrees with the current proposition for the peace deal. So, what Trump has currently proposed is a land swap between areas of Russia and areas of Ukraine in a way that he describes as mutually beneficial. Vladimir Zelensky opposes this, saying that Russia cannot be rewarded for what they've done. And although I agree with this, given this context, you cannot have your cake and eat it too. You have to give some to get some. And Vladimir Zelensky needs to understand that. Additionally, many of the European leaders at the summit remain skeptical about the effectiveness of this. And in large part, that is because, as President Trump put it himself, him and Putin, would have a successful meeting, and then the next day Kiev would be bombed. Thus, something needs to happen. We've tried sanctions. We've been imposing sanctions on Russia for 3.5 years now. That evidently has not worked. You've probably heard Albert Einstein's definition of insanity, trying the same thing over and over and expecting different results. What President Trump is trying to do right now is insane, and greater force needs to be used. Of course, war is a last resort. We obviously do not want war, and I personally don't think that war would pass in the Senate. Despite this, the president does have the ability to carry out warlike actions as commander-in-chief of the military. This was displayed largely through President Bush's handling of the war on terror following the 9/11 terrorist attacks, which I personally think that this was handled terribly, and I personally think the president should not have this much power, but that's my opinion. What matters is that President Trump does have this power, he does have the ability to use it. And the use of this power has the potential to knock Vladimir Putin off of his high horse, stop the attacks on Ukraine, and force him to agree to a peace deal and actually follow through on his end of the deal. And so something needs to happen along those lines in order to get this all figured out. Because we cannot keep watching Ukrainians lose everything like this. It's devastating. This cannot continue. Something needs to be done. So if you enjoyed this political rant, I would greatly appreciate if you could like and subscribe and check out more videos on the channel. That would be amazing. Thank you so much for watching, and bye, y'all.